Today we're going to look at some training for the Conair CBW grinder. This unit will have to be plugged in order to disassemble it. Once it is powered up, it takes anywhere from 35 to 45 seconds for it to have a green light show up on this little red safety switch. So if there's no light, it cannot be opened. Once the green light shows, then you can unlock it. Here you can see the green light coming on. Again, at this point, leaving the unit still plugged in, open the front door, and this will expose the drawer and the grinding chamber. Here from the bottom side, you can see the lock is still engaged, and there's a small black handle that you'll pull down and release it after the green light is on. This will expose 2 cap screws that will need to be loosened. Now you can pull it down. That handle you can pull out once the 2 cap screws are loosened, and it'll drop down, allowing the front door to open up to get access to the cleaning area. Now that it's loose, just pull on the handle, pull straight out, and it'll drop down, releasing the door. Before you can swing the door, though, you'll have to release the takeout discharge tube on the bottom. Remove the clamp, being careful not to pinch your fingers, and push the tube out of the way. You can now unplug the grinder for safety. Now that you have the cutting chamber exposed, you can pull out the bottom drawer. On the back side of the unit, you can remove the clamp that's holding the vent tube cover. It's just a half piece of steel that allows the air to escape. You can now remove the actual grinder screen using a screwdriver. There's a small opening. You can pry it and it pops the screen out. The screen is universal as far as its direction. It can be assembled 180 degrees. Now opening up at the top of the grinding chamber, it will go back so far and stop. There is a cable that will keep the lid from going back too far. At this point you can start cleaning the grinder, cleaning the screen, the grinder drawer, the cutting chamber area. Before you move the actual bed knives, make sure you put on a pair of gloves so that when you turn it you don't cut your hand. You can now clean the remaining portions of the grinder, screen, the drawer, the top, the chute. Once you start reassembling it, there's a magnet on the back side of this drawer that goes on the back side on the takeout end where the discharge tube will be. On the opposite side of the drawer is where you're going to put the half round piece air inlet. It's more of a vent, so when the vacuum pulls the material out of the drawer, it has a place to pull air from. So you put that half piece in on the rubber grommet that's on the inside, but here you can see the clamp is going to hit, so we want to turn the clamp around so it gives you room to actually clamp it up without swinging it into the drawer itself. So position the clamp, and then you might have to actually start to move the half round piece at the same time so it ends up being flat halfway up, such as you see there. Now the drawer can be reassembled into the bottom of the chamber. And you can take the grinder screen, put the grinder screen back in. There's a small lip in the top section there. Just put it inside that area. It fits really nice. And then drop down. On the bottom side there's a small tab that's sticking out. You want to pop it up and over top. It has to sit on top of that tab. If it's not on that tab, it'll fall out when you go to close the door. Make sure your discharge tube is out of the way before you close the door. You just push it back into the wall housing. Now you should be able to close the door, and might have to push it a little bit to get it to shut all the way. It may be necessary to even loosen the 2 cap screws a little bit so that you can get it to seal properly, and then just draw it in that last little bit with the wrench. So at this point, go ahead and tighten up both of those cap screws. Snug them up pretty tight so they draw the door in. Once the cap screws are tightened, you can take the special Allen tool and just set it below the grinder drawer inside the grinder. Lock the safety interlock, and you can see it will not come unlocked. It actually would have to be powered back up again. Now we're going to go ahead and put the discharge tube in place. Make sure that the flange clears the opening and pull it out so that the flange is now exposed. Take the clamp and open it all the way up so that you've got room to get it over top of the flange. You might have to work it a little bit to get it through that insulated wall. Once you get it through, then you can get the flange in place and then slide it directly into the bottom of the drawer. Getting the flange over top of that clamp. You might have to position the clamp a little bit so that it can close properly. Again, being careful not to pinch your fingers in that clamp as you snap it shut. This will give you a good seal and prevent material from leaking out. Now you should be able to close the doors, the left one first, and then the one with the handle, the door on the right. At this point the grinder is clean and completely assembled. At this point you can plug it back in and check the operation to make sure everything's functioning. You can now turn the grinder on and check the operation and make sure everything is working properly. Just do this by pressing the green power button, and you see it illuminate, showing that it's coming on. Again, you can see the safety interlock light is not on. If that were plugged in for another 40 seconds, that would come on. In this position, you see the drop chute is up. Makes it a lot easier to travel while you're pushing it. But you pull the handle on the side to release the lock to lower the drop chute. You just have to push it up in order to close it, and it'll lock in position once it goes all the way up. To drop it back down, simply pull the tab and drop it down again.